Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sterile Field and Aseptic Environment Micro-credential information session with BCIT. Really appreciate you all joining us this evening. My name is Erin Ruggieri, and I'm one of the marketing coordinators with BCIT Health Sciences, and we'll be joined by Cindy Cheng, our program head for the Sterile Field Aseptic Environment Micro-credential. And I would like to acknowledge that the BCIT campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish Nations of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. I am also, I'm not at BCIT at the moment. I'm actually working from home this evening. So I'm joining from the Coquitlam territory, and I'd like you all to take a moment to privately acknowledge and think about which territory you're on. And if you don't know which territory you're on, if this land acknowledgement is new to you, there are some great resources. If you Google BCIT land acknowledgement territories, they kind of tell you and outline for you which territories you're on. So it's a wonderful way to kind of begin that learning process. And moving forward, so our agenda for this session should be like 45 minutes tops, so we won't keep you too long. We'll have the welcome and introduction, which I'm doing right now. Normally we do a poll question, but that is one thing we have figured out is not working great in Teams, so we're going to skip that for now. We'll have a presentation, program overview from Cindy, and some information from me about admissions, and then we'll get to our verbal Q&A. But again, if you have any questions as we go along, you're welcome to also type those into the chat. And with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Cindy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. So my name is Cindy, and I'm the program head for the perioperative specialty program at BCIT here. And I just want to welcome you guys tonight, wherever you guys are joining from. I'm joining from the Langley, which is also on the Kwantlen land here. And then so today I get to speak to you about the sterile field and the aseptic environment micro-credential. So hopefully I can bring you some information that you had questions about. And again, like Erin said, feel free to pop in your questions through the chat or just open up your mic and we'll have that opportunity at the end. So micro-credential is quite a new term. And so for some micro-credential, it is a very new term. So I'm going to provide a quick overview of what is a micro-credential. Just for kind of our, for ease, I'm just going to call it the MC. And I'm also going to talk about what are like badges that's kind of related to the micro-credential. So on this slide, you'll see that the micro-credential are short, stackable, transferable, also agile training opportunities that complementing existing programming, achieving an industry reskilling, upskilling need. So they have those kind of characteristics. And the badge and the MC, they can be seen as like side dishes. So if you look at that kind of menu diagram there, they are being that they are kind of like the bite-sized courses to help meet job market demands and also the needs of the learners, especially if the industry or learner does not need the full entree, such as like the certificate, diploma, or degree. And the next few slides, I will go over how the badges again and the MC kind of work together. So on this slide, it's just kind of again, some characteristics about a micro-credential. There usually ranges around 3 to 9 credits and a minimum of 2 badges that make up a micro-credential. So they can be multiple badges that bundle into a micro-credential, and each badge can be as small as 0.5 credits up to 3 credits. And just to give you an idea for comparison, a full-time theory course, for example, is generally 3 credits, which is about 45 hours workload, whereas our MC is a micro-credential can be like 1 credit and about 15 hours workload. And so the image that kind of shows here is a collection of badges that then funnels into a micro-credential. For the SFAE, which is kind of stands for the sterile field, aseptic and aseptic environment MC, we have 3 badges that we're presenting tonight, and they total about 3.5 credits micro-credential. And the badges are stackable and ladders onto each other, which I'm going to speak to in a little bit. Now, before I go further on what the sterile field and the aseptic environment micro-credential entails, I'm just going to provide an overview of what is referred as a surgical site infection, SSI. sterile fields and also how they relate to each other for those that are unfamiliar with these terms. So to begin, our bodies have many ways to protect us from harmful microorganisms, which can cause infections. One primary protective barrier on our body is our skin. And when an invasive procedure are done, these protective mechanisms are broken through and microorganisms can enter. As defined on the by the BC Ministry of Health on this slide right here, invasive procedure is to break the skin or pass through a mucous membrane. Invasive procedures can occur in many degrees of settings, from tattoo shops, cosmetic clinics, to operating rooms. And then infections related to surgical procedures are then referred to as surgical site infections. So knowing that the invasive procedures can lead to unwanted infections, there are a few things that can be done to prevent and minimize the risk of developing infections or surgical site infections during non-surgical or surgical invasive procedures. So that is to use and keep items we are going to use during the invasive procedure sterile. Sterility is defined here as the absence of every microorganisms, including harmless and harmful ones. And one of the ways to keep these things sterile during invasive procedure, to name a few, is applying that aseptic technique. So for example, handling sterile supplies that may be used during the invasive procedure. It also can involve establishing sterile fields, which can range from small sterile fields to large scale of the sterile field, shown in these kind of pictures. So the top picture, you can see that would be what a small sterile field would be like compared to large drapes, surgical drapes that you see on the second picture that you see. That's kind of a large sterile field that you would set up. And then again, just with the goal of the sterile to create a sterile field and the barrier between the sterile and non-sterile items and things. So any breaks in the aseptic technique or contamination of these sterile fields means that the item or the area is no longer sterile, which then increases the risk for infection during the procedure or the invasive procedure. Great. And then so what is the sterile field and the aseptic environment micro-credential? It's a mouthful, and we're going to refer as FAEMC. So they consist of 3 badges, as I mentioned earlier, and the goal of it is to prepare or upskill learners with the foundational theoretical knowledge to work effectively and safely with the sterile fields and in an aseptic environment, both in and out of healthcare. The FAEMC achieves this by laddering and building upon the preceding badges, so expanding that concept of sterility and also aseptic techniques in an effort to prevent infection and also the surgical site infections. So each badge is about 4 weeks long that we allot for completion from the time of registration, and they're usually asynchronous, flexible learning, kind of at your own pace, but I'm going to speak more to it in a little bit. And here's a little snapshot of our program overview for the micro-credential. So again, we have 3 badges that are kind of funnels into that micro-credential. The first badge is 1.5 credits, and the second is 1 credit, and also followed by the third badge, it is 1 credit as well. So what you can expect for the first credit or for the first badge, the 1.5 credit, is about 18 hours workload, and that kind of stretches over, you can kind of think of it as about 4.5 hours per week that you would be dedicating to completing the badge. The second and third badge are both 1 credit each, and you can look at about 15 hours to complete these badges for the 1 credit, and dedicate about 3.75 hours roughly per week to completing the badges. Now, the first badge, badge 1, it is the introduction to the aseptic environment. So it's going to cover topics such as environmental control, sterilized items. The environment also ranges from, we'll talk about the environment in terms of how it ranges from semi-restricted to unrestricted. So examples of that would be like personal service establishments such as cosmetic industries would fall into this unrestricted environment category. Badge 2 will kind of talk about we'll continue to advance that knowledge around the concepts of sterility and asepsis to keep clients safe from the risk of infection. So it builds on to badge 1 of reducing that risk of infection within a semi-restricted to restricted zones, such as the operating room or the OR. We'll talk about topics such as surgical zones and surgical attire that is required within the semi-restricted and restricted zones. And we're also going to open opportunities of how you might be able to support and fully participate within the surgical team, even if you're not like a healthcare, like RN, like registered nurse or an LPN and per se, but you can still support in that kind of environment. And I just want to kind of emphasize and send a little reminder that completing the MC badges does not qualify you to be a perioperative nurse, so like an OR nurse. It does not qualify you to do that. Perioperative nursing still requires completion of the perioperative program, which we do offer. Badge 3 is that 1 credit, and it's the last badge that we offer, but you don't have to take it sometimes. But if you are interested and you complete a badge 1 and badge 2, you can most likely be allowed to take badge 3. So badge 3 builds upon the concepts of, again, that sterility and asepsis that you learn from badge 1 and 2, except the emphasis is on the nursing role and considerations for someone who is working in kind of like an ambulatory care setting, like a day procedure clinic. The badge introduces theory related to client care, assessments, instrumentation, and intra-procedure management while using best nursing practices to establish and maintain a minor sterile field. So it is really geared towards the nurse who will be assisting and involved in that procedure. Now, you might ask, why take the SFA-MC? And then, so coming from a perioperative nursing background myself, my colleagues and I witnessed the importance of best practice when working with sterile fields and also maintaining aseptic techniques and its direct impact on client outcome. So the MC stemmed from working in the operating room ourselves and recognizing that there are many opportunities where individuals in various settings may be working with sterile fields and in aseptic environments, yet have not received appropriate or sufficient training. As a result, preventable infections can occur. The MC badges seek to kind of meet those needs of those individuals and to equip them with the best standard knowledge to enhance their practice and reduce preventable infections. And then so just on the slide here, there's kind of the 3 main points that why it would really bring benefit to take the SFA MC. If you're already working in kind of the environment that I spoke about that deals with sterile fields or working in that sterile or that aseptic environment, then it could increase your job opportunities where you can really exercise that full capacity and also in a very confident way as well. And really ultimately to reduce the infections that are preventable. Some career outlooks that I mentioned earlier is like personal service establishments. So these are kind of that cosmetic industry field, tattoo piercings, microblading. It could be even hair transplant clinic. So kind of that beauty industry and technician. The other one is operating rooms. So this you could find a job as being an OR aide. So for example, healthcare aides, if they are wanting to look for expanded opportunities in the kind of within their profession, they can look at OR aides where they're not directly providing patient care. However, they're helping and supporting the staff that are working in the operating room. So that is an opportunity. Or also surgical techs, like any kind of technicians that enter the operating room. It'll also support your knowledge on how to kind of maneuver and work around and also move around the sterile field. And also, if you are a nurse and you're wanting to kind of upskill and just kind of learn more about the sterile field, especially if you've been working in ambulatory daycare procedures such as endoscopy, cystoscopy, cataract procedure clinics, pain clinics, these would be kind of great badges for yourself. So is the SFA-MC for you? So here are just kind of some questions that we kind of provided for you to think about. Whether, like, the first one would be, if you're interested in working industries that require working with sterile fields and aseptic environments, then this might be something for you. Or if you're just curious about practicing how you can be more confident in working with sterile fields and increasing that knowledge. Maybe you're already, like I said, working in that environment, but never received proper training from it, just kind of, really quick orientation from work on the job, and you want to know more, then this might be for you. And then also, this is always good for your professional portfolio resume to learn something, and you get credits for it. So that's a good thing. And then also, if you just want to upskill, learning short bite-sized courses on your own time, this could be something for you as well for Micro-credential. And this is kind of this page just talks about the entrance requirements of how generally what is the criteria for getting into these badges. So for badge 1, we really left it pretty open. So if you have a completion of grade 11 here in Canada, then you can take badge 1. And then with a successful completion of badge 1, you can take badge 2. We do recommend that might be more beneficial or of your best interest if you are employed in a health or healthcare related field, but it's not necessary. But yeah, so, and then badge 3, again, is successful completion of badge 1 and 2, as well as, again, it'd be beneficial if you do work in that healthcare industry where you are providing more direct patient care. But however, if you have completed successful completion of badge 1 and badge 2, most likely we'll approve you for badge 3 as well. And if you're just not sure if you qualify or what the criteria is, you can feel free to reach out to our program assistant, Stephanie Strong, or myself, and just to kind of gain that special approval if you need it. So our Associate Dean of the Specialty Nursing, which this micro-credential is under, Kathy Kennedy, she has just talked about how this micro-credential will greatly benefit multiple industries who require a strong understanding of working in the sterile fields, from tattooing to healthcare, to name a few. BCIT Peri-Op Nursing is excited to share their expertise to support this growing area. And then we also have a recent student who have completed all 3 badges, and she provided a really lovely feedback about this the micro-credential. So I'll just give you a moment to read over that. And as you're reading over that, she does mention that about ORNAC. So you're probably thinking, what does that stand for, the ORNAC? So ORNAC is the Operating Room Nurses Association of Canada, and so our micro-credential contain a lot of best practice that's based on ORNAC, and just kind of working in that sterile environment and applying in the aseptic environment, and also applying that sterile technique as well. So that's what she's referring to when she's talking about references to ORNAC.
Thank you, Cindy. And I think I take over at this slide, don't I?
Yeah.
So I'm going to add in some information here about admissions. As Cindy mentioned, there aren't a lot of prerequisites to get into these badges, so this should be fairly easy. But as I go along, please remember that you can put anything into the chat if you have any questions. So the application period, it's not like our programs where we have an open and a close date. There's a small application window. This is an ongoing process. So you can apply anytime, start anytime. It's continuous entry. So when you apply online, bcit.ca/apply, you register for the badge if you meet whatever prerequisites listed. So if that's badge 1, if you meet have had grade 11 in Canada. So you just register for the badge. And once you've registered, you have 4 weeks to complete that badge. So it doesn't matter if you want to complete that in 3 days or if you want to take the full 4 weeks, you have 4 weeks to complete the badge. So that's true for badge 1 and 2. Badge 3 is a little different, as Cindy mentioned. Badge 3, you will be asked kind of what industry or area you work in or what your educational background is, so that we can make sure that's a good fit for you and understand where you're coming from there. So if you have any questions about this process, here's Cindy's email address right on screen and her cell phone number. She's giving out all the information today. And her program assistant, Stephanie Strong, who supports this program and the perioperative program. You can reach her at sstrong4@bcit.ca, and there's her phone number in office as well. So you're welcome to reach out with any questions you have about this program at all. If anything we've said is kind of confusing, if you're not sure if this is really applicable to you or where you would fit in these and what you might be learning, you can definitely reach out. We're more than happy to chat with you about it. If you are doing a badge, you qualify as a BCIT student, which means you also have access to a bunch of our services at BCIT, including Indigenous initiatives, student financial aid and awards, accessibility services, student health services, which is actually, I think, a great one, because student health services is a full-service medical clinic right on the Burnaby campus, and it's available to any BCIT student. And it has doctors and nurses on staff. It's not a walk-in clinic. You do need to make an appointment, but generally they can get you in 24 to 48 hours, which is a lot quicker than most GPs nowadays, or at least my GP. And I know a lot of us also just don't have GPs anymore. So it's great to be able to find a medical office that we can go to while we're students. Counseling and student development, same thing. That's free counseling, and in their counseling offices on campus for students, and it's just located down the hall from Student Health Services. And recreation services, so we do have a full service gym at BCIT campus, which is also available to BCIT students. If you have any questions, you may also contact our program advising department as well as Cindy. Although for this program, I would try Cindy first. But if you're looking at any of our other programs as well, program advising is a great resource. They're great at looking at transcripts with you and kind of helping translate that and talking about what your courses match up as or what qualifies as what prerequisite. And now that you've come to this info session and you know a little bit, you've had an introduction to some information about BCIT, we would love it if you keep in touch. The School of Health Sciences at BCIT actually includes 34 different programs. So a lot of nursing programs, all our diagnostics, our lab and allied health programs. And we are on Facebook, X, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and we're also on TikTok, which isn't listed here. So we would love it if you would give us a follow, share information with us online. We like to kind of share what our students are doing, what our faculty is doing, what's going on in our labs and classrooms and in clinical practice, just kind of to talk about the life at BCIT aspect and to get people connected with us. And so, questions and answers. I know there was one that Cindy just answered in the chat. But are there any other questions for us this evening? And again, if you're not comfortable typing it into the chat, you are welcome to unmute yourselves, just one at a time though, please, and ask a question. Oh, Shika, is that how you say that? I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name, has got their hand raised. If you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
There you are.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. I'm just confirmed that I'm not completing grade 11 in English in Canada. Can I join the course?
If you haven't completed grade 11 in Canada, I believe we suggest you contact program advising and see if we can take a look at your education in your home country and see what it would be applicable to, because it might be that you have the applicable education, but they'll be able to advise you. It's hard for us to kind of say over Teams right now from your transcript, but do connect with program advising. I just put their slide up again for you to take a look.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Yes, I have one more question.
Yes.
If I complete the course and can I get the job right away?
Yeah, so we can't guarantee what jobs or if you're going to get a job, but we provide the education where we know that it will definitely be helpful if you do get a job within these kind of industries to your yeah, so you can, it kind of opens up opportunity if you have it on your resume, but for sure reach out to the hospitals if you're interested in, like, for example, the OR8, and if you want yeah, so just kind of reach out to the hospitals to see if they have these kind of job opportunities, and then even just kind of let them know, like, I'm gonna take a BCIT micro-credential for something that's related to the OR in terms of the aseptic environment, and then, yeah, and see what they say. But I would just reach out to the place that you're thinking of working first.
A lot of that depends on what your previous experience is, what industry you worked in previously, or what your previous education is. And that's why it's hard for us to kind of answer with a definite. Because like Cindy said, this micro-credential can be used in so many different areas, maybe OR aids, but also personal care industry, tattoo areas, piercing studios, all kinds of different industries. So.
And then, yeah, exactly. So if you're like working in a beauty industry, or if you have your own business, it's always really, you know, nice to have when you're advertising, saying like, hey, I've got this micro-credential, we're extra safe, you know, with providing this care or service that you are, right? So you can also think of it in that way. It's not necessary in the healthcare industry as well. Sorry, I think Patricia has a question. You mentioned that these courses could be completed on your own time. Will there be any need for some form of online class attendance at some point? Yeah, so thanks for your question, Patricia. So this is really asynchronous, is like true duet at your own time.
Cindy, just wait a second. I think Patricia accidentally left, and then she has just come back in. So Patricia, we were just starting to answer your question. So I think that you're back online now and you can hear us. So Cindy, could you start again with Patricia's answer? Thank you.
Yes, of course. So you asked about whether or not there is some form of online class attendance at some point required, and the answer is no. It is really true asynchronous, like do it at your own time. And so you have 4 weeks. So you can log in at midnight, 8 a.m., whenever. And as long as you complete the courses within the 4 weeks. And we set it up so that it's not, you know, too heavy. It is doable at a good pace within 4 weeks. And like Erin mentioned earlier, if you're like a keener, you just want to get it done, people have gotten it done within like 3 days, or even less, really, just how much time you want to dedicate to it per day. But yeah, there's no scheduled class attendance.
Thank you. I see Patricia is typing something else. I'm wondering if anybody else has a question though as well. Oh, you're welcome, Patricia. Great. Anyone else have a question we can answer? Maybe that means that you answered all their questions, Cindy.
Yeah, perfect.
It could also mean it could also mean that you don't want to ask your question in a group setting. And again, I'm going to put up Cindy's email address if that's true. If you have a question that's a little more specific, or if you'd rather not share your question in a group setting, you're welcome to email Cindy directly. And if she needs to, she can forward you on to program advising as well, if it's more of a transcript question. But Cindy is definitely very friendly and always willing to answer questions, right, Cindy?
Yes, of course.
I was saying that I just did an info session just a half an hour ago for another program, and I was saying that I'm like, we're actually really approachable at BCIT. We're good at that. We like to talk too much.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit too much sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like reach out to me anytime, really. There's no dumb questions. So yeah. And it's a really new kind of micro-credential, like I said, it's a really new term, and even the topic that we're covering in this micro-credential is really new for a lot of people. So don't be shy to reach out.
Thank you. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we're going to leave it off there. Again, I really appreciate everyone coming this evening and taking time out to meet with us and listen to us. Again, this session was recorded, so in about a week to 10 days time, we will be sending you a link to the recording and also a copy of this slide deck. So if you miss copying down anyone's email address or any of the information, don't worry, you'll get a copy of this and you can take it from there. So it's not the end of the conversation with us by any means. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.